Brigham Weyrauch, welcome to the journey. And just let me share a little bit. The journey is a show that I started a little over 2 years ago. And it is the essence is just trying to capture people's stories about how they may have throughout life had different struggles or different obstacles in their life, and how they may have learned from those obstacles, or maybe how they decided that they wanted to try something new, try some different adventure, and what were the obstacles along the way that may have been those gatekeepers that maybe didn't want them to necessarily go and try those new adventures. And but most importantly, what were the lessons that were learned along that journey? And I know that you have explored a little bit and have stretched your wings a little bit. I've known you, I want to say, for sure, since your freshman year in high school. And so welcome to the journey.
Thanks, Kevin. I'm excited to be here, and I'm looking forward to having a great conversation. I think freshman year is correct because it was right when Caleb came over from Eisenhower. So that would have been what, freshman year of high school, that we would have met. But I'm excited to share a little bit about where I've come from and where I'm going.
Yep, sounds good. So let's start with a question I always ask when the guests come on: is when Brigham has an opportunity for fun, what does Brigham do?
So there's a couple things that come to mind. I love to play the drums. Drums is one of the things I've been doing the longest, since I was about 6 years old. I love to play the drums. I have my drum set here with me in Montana. So I play that. It's a good release for me, a good little energy boost if I need it. And then also anything outside. I love to hike. I love to mountain bike. Snowboarding is my number one go-to outdoor physical activity that I would say that I enjoy doing for fun. We briefly talked about it right before we started, but I have set a personal goal for myself to reach 70 days on the mountain snowboarding this year, and I'm at 62 right now. So I'm about 8 days away from that goal, but it's fun to pursue something that is, purely for fun, purely for actual enjoyment and being outside and just enjoying the world around us.
Perfect. Well, let me ask you. Let's kind of dive into that. So tell us a little bit about the drums. How did you, how 6 years old? How did you get introduced to the drums? And then obviously something stuck with it for you to continue, for 19 years. So who introduced you to the drums? Who introduced you to music?
So my mom was a percussionist when she was in grade school and middle school and high school. So I was introduced specifically to that, but also while I was learning to play the drums, both my older brothers and my dad were playing the guitars. And I don't know what, the drums, I just kind of gravitated towards it. I loved how loud they could be and how
Sure.
forceful they could be in a band. And ever since I took lessons for a while, and ever since then, I've just really enjoyed even just the music aspect. I love becoming a music lover and a music fanatic, if you will. And drumming has been the driving force, no pun intended, behind that moving train, basically. Because once I started, I just got addicted to it. I just love the feeling of being able to create and being able to, make something your own, basically, with music. I just never, I could never read music very well at all. Notes did not flow well with me. My mom told me I had to learn the piano before I could learn how to play the drums. Never learned how to play the piano, still can't. So drums is just kind of what stuck because I just didn't want to I didn't want to have to read music, if you will.
Sure. So then your style of learning how to play was really listening to other people play, and then and making the same sound that you heard on a particular track or a particular song.
Most definitely. And that is definitely something that has stayed consistent throughout my life. I'm very much a hands-on learner and a visual. If I get shown how to do something and then I get the opportunity to practice and do it myself, I think that's how I learn best. Reading books has never been a strong suit for me. Studying for tests has never really been a strong suit for me. But hands-on, active learning is truly something that has helped me grow in many areas of my life.
Sure, sure. And I think, the arts are a phenomenal way, not only from a way of expressing yourself, but then also you learn those different learning styles. You learn about yourself and your different learning styles. And like you said, you could have been frustrated and disliked playing music if you would have been forced to study how to read music, you probably could have got away with it, but it probably would have not been much very enjoyable for you, and even to the point where it may have deterred you. But to be able to just to experientially learn, learning by doing, and then by mimicking what you heard, it probably allowed that creativity and that innovation to continue to grow.
Oh, most definitely. And it's something that I wish I probably could have, when I was younger, worked on more is the actual, the visual of the, reading the music and that. It's very much a skill that takes time to learn. It's just like learning the guitar, you sit down to read the music. But I don't know what it was. It was just the physical touch of, watching somebody. I remember my drum teacher, we had two drum sets facing each other. So he would just play something and I'd be watching him do it, and then he would just give me a chance to immediately repeat it. And I could do that 10,000 times better than ever having to be like, okay, here's what you're supposed to play on a sheet of paper. I'm like, I don't know what to do. I mean,
Right.
I can't you just play it once? It's funny because I just watched the movie Drumline with Nick Cannon from 2002, and
Yep. Yep.
he has the same problem. He can't read music, but as soon as somebody plays something on the drums, he's like, "Oh, I saw it, I heard it, now I can do it."
Yep, yep. Phenomenal movie, by the way. It's
Oh
one of
yeah.
my, yeah, just phenomenal. It's one of those movies I could watch numerous times, not only from the entertainment aspect of it because of them just being so talented, but an appreciation for that, the marching band culture, and it's obviously in the Midwest is nowhere compared to it is
Right.
in the South SEC and the other conferences in the South, and but a huge appreciation for that. But that was a great movie.
Absolutely.
I don't know if it's really like that, but I definitely liked it. So
I think at one point it had to have been, so
yeah, yeah, exactly. So how did who introduced you to snowboarding? How'd that all come about?
Snowboarding and just winter sports has been in my family as well ever since I grew up. I used to grow up going to Colorado or places in the West with, people like the Onabanis and the Miklachs and people that that some other people might not, just close family friends. And it was almost every winter we would go take a trip out west. And I have a picture of me in one of those child carrier things on my mom's stomach as she's skiing as I'm like 2 years old. And so it was even before I could even ski, I was out there with my family skiing. So I started skiing, and then all my brothers and my dad transitioned over to snowboarding. And excuse me, I just ended up following anyway because my brothers are doing it. I was like, oh, I got to give it a shot. And I just fell in love with it. Something that I could push myself physically and I felt like mentally as well. That was just, combining the aspects of being with your friends and your family while doing something collectively together while also improving your skills in
Sure.
some way or another.
Sure. And so tell me, what for you from your experience, what was the how was the transition from skiing to snowboarding? And obviously it sounds like you prefer snowboarding over skiing.
It was, I mean, I granted this was when I was like 12 or 13 years old, so it was
Sure.
very early, or like right around that age where like memories start to form a little bit better than when you're super young. So I do remember the first day of just constant. I didn't want to do it anymore after the first day. I snowboard. I mean, as most people who snowboard for the first time know, the first day you spend a lot of time in your butt or a lot of time in your knees because you're just falling, you're falling, you're falling. And I do remember this. I remember bawling my eyes out to my dad and telling him I never ever wanted to do it again ever in my entire life. And then we came back the next day and did it again. And then I finally got down, because I was just like, why am I doing this? I already know how to ski. I already know how to get down to the bottom of the mountain. Like, why am I doing something that I'm now putting myself into a situation to struggle to then hopefully enjoy this again at another time? However, though, I think that like that 12, 13-year-old stage, it's way easier to make a transition like that than it is whether it be in your early 20s or 30s or 40s, wherever you decide. Like, I think that's an age where you're a little bit more nimble and things don't hurt quite as much as they do when you get a little bit older. So I think it was a good time to make that transition. And ever since I've gone over to snowboarding, I haven't skied since I think I was 13. I just enjoy snowboarding so much.
Sure, sure. Well, and I think, we were talking about that earlier about obstacles, right? And having that frustration of that first day and even that second day, probably the majority of that second day wasn't going well. And that first day definitely didn't go well. But the wisdom that your father saw is that if you'll stick with this, you will turn a corner and it'll be okay. And that's obviously someone who had gone through that transition himself, and knowing it's kind of like riding a bike, right? You're going to fall before you learn how to ride a bike. It's just part of learning how to ride. And
Yep.
then at some point it clicks, similar to riding a bike, and you may still fall, but it'll be a lot less than than staying up.
Yeah, absolutely. And I think that we'll see this theme, I think, trickle throughout this whole conversation that we'll have in many different aspects, and I'll keep coming back to it. But it's the idea of seeing beyond the obstacle. You know, you may have something in front of you, but what can you see on the other side? What do you know? Um, I love David Goggins. I mean, he's a beast at everything that he does, but he talks a lot about getting used to or understanding doing things that you don't want to do so you can do things that you love and you can eventually, enjoy. So it's like, I have this obstacle in front of me, but I have a choice. I can give up and I don't ever have to do it again, and I can ski down the mountain just fine. But it's making that initial decision and, having that mental focus, and obviously the drive from my dad, because my dad is a very motivated human. So he's like, hey, we can do this. So it's like understanding now that I've told myself I can get to the other side, then I
Mm.
can actually make it. And now obviously, this has blossomed into something that I do more than anything else, really. I
Right.
mean, if you think these 70 days on average, I'm spending anywhere between 5 and 7 hours doing, this thing. And if I'm bad at math, but if you do the math, that's more time than I spend doing many other things that I could
Sure.
potentially be doing.
Sure, absolutely. Tell us, the audience, a little bit. David Goggins, you were just referred to him, so tell us a little bit about what you know of him and his work, and just because you planted that seed and endorsed him. So, yeah, tell us a little bit about him.
So I mean, he's an ex-military guy. He used to be, I'm just going to give a brief because you guys can look him up and find him on yourself, but he used to be extremely overweight, 200, 300 pounds, and then lost all this weight, went through the hardest Navy SEAL training that there is to become a Navy SEAL, failed, I believe, 2 or 3 times at the very end of the tests that I don't know if I think he passed out underwater or something like that, but like a very critical part of, becoming a Navy SEAL. And now he's just a hard ass. He just loves to drill into people's brains that the mental attitude and the mentality that you come at a task with is 99% of your success rate is going to be determined by that. And I mean, I have an extreme love hate relationship with him because I love him so much because I get a lot of motivation from him. But other times I just look at him and I'm just like, he makes it sound so easy. Like he makes it sound like getting running. I mean, he ran 100 miles in whatever, some crazy amount of time. And
Mhm.
that is just something that I can't even wrap my head around.
Yeah.
But I think there are values that he does preach and that he does talk about, like, like the mental idea of, there's a very specific video which I'll share with you after we're done here, but that he just very much talks about, the sooner that you get used to doing things that you don't want to do to put yourself in a better situation to do the things that you want to do, the better off you'll be. Because, and I think this is, if understood correctly, can be very helpful for a lot of people. But it's understanding that, I mean, I'll go on a little bit of rabbit trail here. But for a long time, I mopped floors at many different places. I mopped floors at Dolphin Swim Club when it was an outdoor pool there. I mopped floors at Peak Sports Club. I mopped floors at the sports club here in Montana. And I always think about that because I never wanted, this not something you ever want to do. But every time that I did it, I knew that the sooner I got done with this task and the better that I did this task, it's going to put me in a better spot to continue on to what I do want to do
Mhm.
and continue on to whatever the next tier of whatever it's going to be for me to get to that next level or to get past this obstacle, if you will, to, continue enjoying and, snowboarding and getting to that point where I'm genuinely enjoying doing this activity instead of just being like, man, I just can't wait till it's over. I just can't
Right.
wait till I get it done type of thing.
Yeah.
That makes
Well,
sense.
even as you were just talking, I had a reminder of one of the times that we would spend. I spent quite a bit of time with you and Caleb, and at that time Carter Sanderson, mostly the two of you, but Carter would tag along at 6 a.m. in the morning, when you two, I want to say you guys were sophomores, would come in, and I would train you guys. When I was a strength coach over at Rockford Christian at that time, And so we showed up at 6 a.m. for the workouts because we figured we could be done within 45 minutes to an hour. And there was some because of the workouts that I had set up, they were powerlifting movements, mostly powerlifting movements. And um, and there was times when the weight would increase, and there was definitely you guys faced certain obstacles of it was as much what it reminded me of is when Goggins was talking about the idea of mental, and the idea of feeling 400 pounds on your back when you're doing a squat and going, shit, this is heavy. And but you had already worked your way up to that amount, or how much you were benching, or whatever it was. There was an element that you 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 were going to be able to do this. You just had to know that you were going to be able to do this.
Right. I think that is a very, very powerful thing that is probably the most underrated thing in the world is the idea of telling yourself that yes, you can.
Yeah.
And I had a conversation with someone not too long ago about this, and we were just talking about something, and I can't remember what it was that we were talking about, but we'll just make something up. But they look at me and they're like, "Well, there's no way I could do that." We'll talk about snowboarding. There's no way I could ever snowboarding. And I was like, "You're right. There is no way. You just told yourself you can't. You've already lost that battle. You've already put yourself in a situation to where you know that you cannot do it." But if you walk into a situation, whether it be, PR benching or snowboarding or even, relationships, like being the best boyfriend or the best spouse that you could be, and you tell yourself, yeah, I can do that. Of course I can. You've already set yourself ahead of so many other people and just put yourself into a better position by doing that because you've literally accepted the fact of success. You've
Yeah.
accepted that you eventually you do deserve it and you can do it. Whereas if you tell yourself there's no way, then you're not going to. I think about those 6 a.m. workouts literally all the time. I learned more about myself and my mentality and my drive, I think, than anything else during that time because it was a mental task to get up in the morning
Yeah.
and work out with only three other people. There was
Yep.
literally three of us there. And we all knew, obviously, if you weren't there, and there was the dedication aspect that we all dedicated. We're like, I think it was Monday through Thursday, or like Monday, Tuesday, Thursday, Friday. And we're like,
Yep.
we all will be here.
Yep.
And this is our choice because we want to set ourselves up to succeed
Yep.
and move on and become stronger and better
Yep.
people.
Yeah. And yeah, there's without a doubt the end goal was getting ready for football, right? That was the goal that we had. But the lessons that you learn along that preparation are the ones that are tools for life. And there was an element of accountability, and then what you would then accomplish, those personal goals that you guys were accomplishing, and then it became more than football. It
Right.
became more than just prepping for football. It was, you knew that you had done something, you had done the hard things that other people were choosing not to do.
Exactly. And that was where people would look at me and ask me why. Why are you doing that? Why are you getting up at 6 a.m.? Why are you putting yourself through this workout when it's not required and no one else is there to tell you or to make you do it? And I would look at people and I said, because I said I would. I made a commitment. I said to these people, my peers, that I will be there and I will do it. And because I said I'm going to do it, I'm a man of my word, I'm going to do it.
No.
And I think that's where that set the cornerstone for me in a lot of the way that I live my life now. I don't ever tell anybody that I'm going to do something that I don't firmly believe that I'm going to do. I just don't feel good about doing that. So if you were like, "Hey, let's get up and work out tomorrow morning," and I was like, in my head, I'm like, "There's no way." I would feel bad looking at you and even leading you on to the fact to think that I was going to. When in my head, I'm like, "There's no way." And I
Yeah.
think that's a struggle for a lot of people because a lot of people want to please other people. They want to make them feel like they can be liked because they're a yes man or something like that. But for me, I had struggle a lot with that. And I think a lot of it comes from those 6 a.m. workouts where I committed to something. I remember this very vividly. I told Coach Carpenter I would not miss a workout for the whole whatever it was, the whole duration. I think it was the second semester of junior year. So it would have been like January through end of May. I told him I think I bet him something. I'm like, I've refused to miss a morning workout. I went to Mexico just an hour behind. So it was 5 o'clock in Mexico. I was on vacation. I got up and I got on FaceTime with Coach Carpenter. I'm like, hey, I'm in the gym. This still counts. Like, I know I'm on vacation, but you have to understand I'm still here. I'm still doing it. This still counts, type of thing. Because I was that dedicated, because I had made a commitment and I wanted to see it from start to finish all the way through, both from a commitment standpoint, but also from physical goals standpoint and lifting weights and, improving physically, which was obviously 80% of what we were doing there.
Yeah, yeah, absolutely. And again, I think those things, they end up being a platform in which you can build off of throughout life, and we talk about a lot of time that sports, regardless if it's competitive, meaning you're going against other schools or other teams, or just your own personal goals, or the arts, are really the are really expression of life. And this, the idea that, yes, sports are really a metaphor for life, and arts are more of, kind of this, again, this, the metaphor for life, right? How we can express ourselves, but then how we can learn, through the stories, through the expression of things, through the music. And then, of course, in sports, either having to work with a team, or just the individual drive that you have to do on an, individual activity, like either snowboarding or weightlifting or whatever it may be.
Yeah,
So, so,
absolutely.
so, so Brigham, let's, kind of bring us up to speed. I mean, you obviously, you're from Rockford, Illinois. Spent your life there, and then post high school, you went to University of Wisconsin, La Crosse, correct?
Yes. Yep.
Yeah, and so when you were at, La Crosse, what did you study there? What was that experience like, and how did life start? Maybe moving a little bit different direction, because football was a big part. Sports were a big part of life when you were in high school, middle school, and stuff. What seemed to start changing in university life?
So I'll start with kind of like the transition from high school to college. One of the determining factors of me going to college and where I was going to college was, to play football. I had my mindset. I spent pretty much my whole high school football career after freshman year dedicating to be a kicker. I wanted to be a kicker. I played soccer for a long time, and I made the conscious decision when I was in eighth grade that I was going to be too short and not fast enough or strong enough to be a wide receiver or a defensive back. And I just really wanted the experience of college sports. So kicking was going to be my avenue to do that. So just before I graduated high school, I was looking at places really close. I didn't want to go too far from home. And I just got one of the coaches reached out to me from University of Wisconsin La Crosse, and I was like, we'll go take a visit, whatever. We'll see what it's like. And I remember, I will never forget driving there the first time with my dad, for a game day visit in the fall. And I mean, it's a beautiful place, an absolutely beautiful place as
Mhm.
far as the Midwest is concerned. Just the bluffs, it's a gorgeous area. And I had a friend from that I went to high school with who went there. I met up with her and got a little bit of a tour and just really enjoyed the space. But didn't immediately know that I was going to be going there. It was still very early on in my college decision process, but as things developed, it always just stayed in the back of my head that I was like, oh, maybe I could go here. Maybe I could go here. And I wanted to be close to Rockford at the time because I had a significant other that I was in a relationship that I was like, well, I kind of want to be close because she was still going to be in high school for another year. And then things with that ended, and I was like, all right, well, now my doors are open. Now I have, I don't have to stay close to home. I can go where I want. So I chose La Crosse because it's the perfect distance, a nice 3 hours. You can get home quick to see mom, or I can tell her that I don't want to drive 3 hours if I need to get
Mhm.
home. But so I get to University of Wisconsin La Crosse. I studied broadcasting digital media. So I have a degree in communications with an emphasis on broadcasting and digital media. So originally I went to school to be on TV and radio, a newscaster, or radio is really what I gravitated towards. And then I had a minor in German, switched to sports broadcasting because I was just really a sports guy. But football is what brought me there essentially, because that's just kind of what, they came to me, and it just, all unfolded really well, honestly. And college was a crazy time for me because there was so much transformation, but also just like, I mean, obviously, like it is for anybody, it's a new experience. It's the first time you're living out of your house. There's a lot of decisions that you have to make on your own that can, lead to great successes or, great declines. And that's kind of really on you. So, but what was really cool is I walked into a situation where I was immediately put into a room of brothers. I was immediately put into a room of football players who were there for a collective goal, who wanted to see each other succeed. And we all wanted to, be there together and grow physically, mentally, and emotionally so we could, succeed in, the world of football together. So I played there for the first 2 years of my college career. And all while this was happening, I started DJing while I was in high school. So I actually DJ'd our Sadie Hawkins dance my senior year of high school, only like the first half hour. But needless to say, I had already planted that seed. I was already working on my DJing and knew that there was a little bit more of a long-term goal behind, just throwing parties and just playing music for people and things like that. So fast forward to sophomore year of college. I was basically like I got gray shirted freshman year, which is basically like a red shirt freshman, and then sophomore year was supposed to be the year that I really started to get to play and integrate myself into the team. I mean, I was still obviously doing all the workouts and things like that, and fall camp rolls around before, which would have been my sophomore, my full sophomore year of college. So I went through freshman year and then went through like spring camp with everybody and then went through summer workouts and then went through fall camp. I went all the way through the 2-week camp. And long story short, I had an injury prior to that camp back the winter before that. I broke my ankle and I just kind of had struggled with that a little bit. I healed up well. I did everything I was supposed to, and it was finally healing. So I was in a good spot to continue to play. So I go into camp for 2 weeks, and every day for 2 weeks, they tape my ankle, just like obviously you would, just to make sure that it's stabilized and whatnot. So a week in, I start to see an inflammation on my ankle, and I start to see it swell up. And it was almost like overnight that this happened. Needless to say, my ankle swelled up to the size of a softball, and I couldn't play. And it was my kicking foot, so I definitely couldn't play. And this was right before they were about to make serious decisions on who was going to be, on the team versus another gray shirt year or just like a practice squad type of thing. And this was also at a pivotal time where I was about to be 21. And I knew that when I turned 21, I could work in bars and I could DJ in bars. I could be in more places where alcohol was served, which is a big, dividing line of what you can do as a DJ, because legally you just can't be in there. And I kept thinking, I had a debate for a long time, a very long time, but going back and forth, do I want to continue to play football with maybe the chance of kicking, full time for this team, but like what's going to come of that? Or do I like really want to gravitate towards DJing, because what's on Saturdays? College football games. And what's on Friday nights and Saturday nights? DJs in the bars. So in my head, I'm like, oh, I have this really hard time. And to be honest, I'll never forget the conversation that I had to have with my mom, because as you can imagine, both my mother and my father were not super jazzed at the time that I didn't want to play football anymore, as themselves had invested a lot of time and effort into helping me succeed in that area of my life by taking me to football camps, cheering me on financially, getting me to all these football camps type of things. So it was a tough conversation to have, but I do remember having the conversation and hanging up the phone. I went for a walk around the neighborhood, and I told myself, if this is the decision that I'm making, then I need to make it knowing that I'm going to put my best effort forward into this thing that I'm actually deciding to dive into. Because I told myself, either way I went, if I chose DJing, if I chose football, I had to do it 110%, because that's just who I am. And that's what I needed to prove to myself, that I could be the one on the football team as the starting kicker, or I needed to prove both to my parents and myself that I could be the DJ that I always wanted to be, type of thing. So that was about my sophomore year. I quit football, and within a calendar year of that time, I started DJing bars downtown in La Crosse, and started really putting my time and effort into that side of my life. So I became the general manager and the program director for the student-led radio station. I did that for 2 years. I got an internship with the radio station in La Crosse, working for 3 different radio stations, being out in the streets promoting things, and then also working, really crappy shifts at 7 a.m. on Sunday mornings, reading the weather for 15 seconds. But I really dove into it, and I knew that that's what I had to do to really let my DJ career blossom. So that was about junior year that I really started to put a lot of time and effort into it. And then after my junior year of high school, or excuse me, college, and my senior year then as well, those summers is when I started doing, weddings and special events and things that required a lot more time and effort and are just another level of DJing themselves. I mean, there's a big difference between, excuse me, there's a big difference between DJing a bar and, and then hosting a wedding
Mhm.
or hosting a nonprofit event or anything like that that just requires a little bit more skills and refinement to just talking in front of people. So that was, like I said, the summer after my junior and the summer after my senior year of college, when I also still didn't really know what I wanted to do. I was dating a girl at the time, and we had some ideas on, we knew we wanted to move. I love the Midwest and it's got a special place in my heart, but the mountains are just, I've gravitated towards them since I was young, since I was taking all those trips. So I knew that I wanted to move somewhere west, and we had some ideas on what we thought we wanted to do, kept talking about it. And just like anybody in their early 20s, in a relationship, it's hard to really know, a year from that time. There's nothing really set in stone, as with anybody's life. But we were just making plans, or like we thought this is what we could do, this is what we could do. So I graduated college in 4 years, which was a huge thing for me because I was a part of that DJing thing. I was like, if I'm going to be done, because I could have gone to school for 5 years to continue my football career since I gray shirted and really taken up that full time. But I told myself, if I'm choosing the school and the DJ route, that I have to do it in 4 years. Like, this is something for me that I personally need to do. And so I got in and out 4 years, and college, to wrap that up, like, really provided me with a lot of opportunities to just be around people. I really fell in love with people. I created such a large yet close knit group of friends that I know I could call any one of them on a list right now and have a fantastic conversation with them. And I keep up with a lot of them still, which I think is the ultimate testament to how strong those relationships are and how curating them properly can help them continue to grow beyond,
Mhm.
not being in the same room as each other 3 days a week for 2 hours type of thing. So college really put me in a position to feel the love from my peers, but also taught me how to reciprocate that in an effective way so that people knew exactly how I felt about them. And people knew exactly what they could get from me, for a lack of better verbiage. There's just, people would come to me and we'd have great conversations, and there was never any question of the intention or of what was truly going on. It was just genuine conversation, whether it be about the most random things, whether it be about life, business, DJing, anything, you name it. It was just awesome to really share that with that many people. Because fast forward to, DJing world now, I meet on any given weekend, I'm meeting between 100 and 300 people I've never met my entire life, and I have to help, the bride and groom or whoever the event is for, help them have a successful day or help them have a successful event when I'm in a room with people that I really don't know very well. So college gets wrapped up, and we're still trying to figure out what we're going to do. Girlfriend at the time wants to move to Missoula, Montana to pursue an internship that she got accepted for. And so I literally just sent an email to an entertainment company here in Missoula, gave him a little bit of my DJ resume, as much as you could have of one of those. And I was like, hey, this is my skills. This is where I come from. This is what I'm doing. Are you guys hiring? And I'll never forget this either. I was at the YMCA on the second floor looking over Main Street in La Crosse while I was on the treadmill. 24 hours after I sent the email, got an email right back, said, you have a job. Like, we need all the help we can get. We're growing and we think that you'd be a perfect fit for us. And I was like, well, there we go. I was like, I was going to go be a bartender. I didn't know what I was going to do. This is great. This is awesome. 24 hours after that, the girl that I was dating broke up with me. And so now I found myself in very much a situation where I had a choice to make. A very difficult choice, but to me, I think the choice was always clear. I had where I could, stay in lacrosse, where I had a great, opportunity employment wise, just with the brewery I was working at. And then I could also do weddings in Rockford, which is where I was doing a lot of my business at the time, as far as DJing. Or I could make the jump. I could go to Missoula, and choose to take this job and, see just where that would take me. And I ultimately, that's what I chose. And I just made that jump on a leap of faith, but also kind of like with a safety net. I always told myself, your hometown's always there. The comfortability is always there. But I was like, if I have to sit in my house and wonder what could have been, or what should have
Mhm.
been, or what might have been, I'm gonna go crazy. I need to do this. I never had the chance to study abroad, which was one of my biggest regrets in college because that was something I always wanted to do. And so to me, this was like my study abroad. This was like, this is my chance to really leave, to really
Mm.
be 1,500 miles from my home, 1,500 miles from my friends, my family, and what I know and what I love. And I was thought to myself, this is a chance for me to grow by myself, and really grow into who I want to be when I'm by myself, which I think will ultimately lead to me being a better person when I am with other people. So I made the jump. I moved to Missoula, Montana in May of 2019, and I've been here ever since. And I love it here. It's a great place. I go home often. As you know, I'm back
Mm.
in Rockford quite a bit, which is great because I love my family that still lives there, and I still love to see old friends and people there. But I do truly enjoy my life out here in the mountains.
Yeah.
So that's a little bit of a catch up to this,
Sure.
what my
Yeah.
day is basically.
Yeah. So during that time period, and I know this is an ongoing process, right? I mean, regardless of what age, I don't necessarily believe we stop learning and growing unless we make that conscious choice to stop, developing and growing. And so, what would be a couple things just making that move? I guess that would be coming up on 2 years, making that move. Obviously, on paper, there were some plans that you and the girlfriend at the time were going to make this move, and then all of a sudden, the job opportunity comes, but the relationship opportunity ends. And I'm guessing you didn't know anybody out there then. Um,
Correct.
yeah. So what things would, if there was one thing that stood out to you taking that opportunity that you learned about yourself, what would be one thing that you would say stands out to you that you learned about yourself by making that, by choosing the narrow path instead of choosing the familiar path?
Let's see. That's a tough question because I think there's a lot to be said about just that in general because it really opened up for a lot of other things to happen. But truly, it's just like perseverance is just in the idea of kind of circles back to what we were talking about before is I knew it was going to be difficult. I knew moving away from my family and the people that I love and the people that I've known for years and years and years was going to be tough. But I also had this weird itch that I was like, but there's something on the other side. I was like, there's something that's over there. Because if there wasn't, then there's no reason why I should feel like I should go there. So I kept thinking to myself this whole time. I was like, I mean, I will not lie. I spent countless nights by myself in my apartment with my dog because I didn't know anybody. I didn't have any friends. And at that moment of time, I was really forced to, like I said, decide who I wanted to be when I was by myself. Did I want to be the person that sits in my room and doesn't do anything and stares at a wall and just watches TV all day? Or do I want to go outside? Do I want to go on a hike? Do I want to go, lucky for me, I have a lot of access to that stuff here. So, mountain biking and stuff like that, and just driving around and just seeing stuff. It was all on me. I had nobody to tell me what to do. It was like college, but almost to another level because I didn't have a roommate for a while, and then I had a roommate who our schedules were opposite. So I had nobody telling me anything or giving me really any super ton of guidance on what to do. So it's like basically, you know, I go to college and I create this great group of friends, and then I basically go back to square one. And I don't live in a dorm room, so I can't meet a bunch of people. I don't really personally want to go to the bar every Friday and Saturday night to try and meet people. That's not where I think I'd find my friends. So I really had to force myself to find a way to integrate myself into Missoula and the mountains and being out here and what I wanted my life to look like. It
Mhm.
was almost like a blank canvas. It's like, okay, here I am, and it's up to me to really drive this train in the direction that I want to go. And I get to choose. And it was tough because as a DJ, I'm working maybe 2 days a week. It's Friday or Saturdays and Sundays or Fridays and Saturdays. So that was my schedule when I first moved out here. So I had, you know, 5 days a week where I really just need to fill my time. And I went to the gym. I would go to the gym for 4 hours a day because I had nothing else to do. But I loved it. I learned to love it. And I've grown physically a ton since that happened because I just decided to put more effort into that. And, I put more effort into my DJing and practicing and perfecting my craft and so many other things that I just may have never had a lot of time for to do by myself that I then started to work on. So I think, I mean, I said perseverance in the beginning, but I think just maintaining self motivation
Mhm.
for like, so almost like a perseverance, if you will, but maintaining self motivation when self motivation is the last thing that you want to do.
Mhm.
Because when you get to that point, when you're absolutely absolute bottom and you don't have any motivation, you don't have anyone to lean on to tell you, hey, you can do this. Hey, yeah, you got this, or hey, you should go do this. Then what are you going to do? Are you going to sit still, or are you going to keep paddling? You're going to keep going, in the direction that you want to go. So I think that is a super big part of that whole move, was just learning self motivation and learning, how to effectively use your time too is another thing. It's just something that's, underrated, is time management, and putting the right amount of time into the right things. So I hope that answers your question.
Oh no, absolutely. And I have had a couple different, opportunities in my life where um, I was very aware when when transitions happened. When I no longer was bodybuilding, and that ended, and I didn't know what was the next thing. And realizing that in some ways a full I was fully capable of creating the life that I wanted, and creating who did Kevin want to be. I knew what I didn't want to do anymore, and what I wasn't going to do anymore. Now, here's this opportunity, and sometimes, oddly enough, it's easier when you don't have anyone else around you reminding you of who you used to be. And so if you want to make those changes, the people at Mizzou, they didn't know you. They didn't know who you were. So who you presented to them is who they are now getting to know. And I think there's something to be said. Scary as that is, lonely as that is, there's also then opportunity in that obstacle as well.
Right. And I totally agree with you. I was ultimately faced with another difficult decision, just like, with deciding where to go to college and why I wanted to go there, and then deciding to quit football and why I wanted to quit football. I was put into a position now that after I had moved, I had a decision to make. I have a decision to learn and grow in a way that I've never been able to before, because I've never been by myself like that before. And I mean, until quarantine, I think a lot of the world had never been forced to be by themselves like that. And I think, there are obviously, a lot of the mental health issues, and a lot of suicide rates are on the absolute skyrocket,
Yeah.
since quarantine and since COVID has happened, which is extremely unfortunate. But I think it is a testament to show you that people, one, truly we're not meant to be alone, and two, a lot of people do not know how to handle being alone. And I'm not saying that I'm the perfect person at it, but I think that that's when people can really struggle the most, because once they can hear themselves in their head, and
Yeah.
once they're completely in silence and by themselves, is when you have intrinsic thoughts and other things that have crept into your head that you're kind of can you can let really affect you. So that's, I think, where a lot of decisions, and I'm saying this, and this is no easy task. I don't want that to be what I'm saying at all, but that's where you are forced to, make decisions. How do I handle this? How do I handle this situation? How do I handle being alone? What is a way for me to, cope with realizing that I am alone and that I am lonely? Well, what is that? What am I supposed to do with that? Because I went from a ton of friends and a girlfriend and a great life and something that I thought that I truly wanted to, not that I didn't have any friends, but I wasn't around any friends and no girlfriend and by myself. Thankfully, I had my dog. That always helps. And just put in that position to where it was kind of up to me. I could lean on my family and I could call my mom, but that's only going to get you so far, because there's nothing physical about that. There's no, physical action. And I think body language is a huge part too, of just the whole mental process and being mentally healthy. So, like I said, I mean, it was just an interesting place to be in, and I am very thankful for it, because I think it's made me better in my relationships by now knowing what I felt like when I was alone.
Yeah. Well, and I think there is that element that plays into it. One, you had, throughout your life, there had been things that you had set goals around, and you had worked hard toward goals. And even if it didn't maybe turn out the way that you thought it was supposed to, the lessons that you learned along that preparation part were incremental. And then the idea that you were out there, initially you were out there for a reason because you were hired to be a DJ out there. And so then it sounds like you made the decision to channel some of that energy into then being the best you could be and really practicing that craft instead of just phoning it in or just getting by with the skills he had already developed, but trying to really bring it to that next level. And now you had actually the time to really do what a lot of people don't do. And they find that, they talk about this idea to master something, you have to put 10,000 hours in. And a lot of times people will, they'll complain about, well, I'm going to try to fast track it. Well, there's a reason why they say to master something it's 10,000 hours, because it's all the things that you learn, including
Right,
learning bad habits along the way, because then you have to unlearn them, and that takes another, how many hours to unlearn that. But it's
right.
all part of that process of mastery. And
And
so
I don't think I truly appreciated that time alone, until quarantine happened. And that's when I really saw a lot of what I learned come to full fruition, and learning how to maximize my time. I mean, lucky for me, I will not deny I was in a very fortunate situation during quarantine where I lived with my best friend and another one of my best friends. So we're all in a house together. So we weren't alone or weren't completely by ourselves. But my roommate and myself were forced to make decisions, who were both people that are both self-employed and have a skill. He's an engineer, a mechanical engineer, and we both consciously made a decision one day that a minimum of 4 hours a day we would separate and we would go into our rooms and work on something and work on perfecting something. So at the time for him, that was learning a new engineering software and learning a new CAD program, and for me that was standing behind my turntables and just practicing for hours and hours and downloading music and thinking about music differently and just forcing myself to use this time that we've been given, to be productive and to really, like I said, just like being alone the first time, is putting time into things that, that I think quarantine was really interesting for a lot of people because it took away an excuse that everybody uses all the time. I don't have any time. I don't have time. I can't do that. I don't have time. Well, now you do, but I can only imagine the number of people that still didn't do anything was still insane compared to the amount of people that might have taken advantage of it, in a different way. And I'm
yeah.
not just saying just work. I'm saying anything personal, or whether you picked up knitting, or you wanted to learn the ukulele or something like that, or yoga or meditating, whether it been mental or physical. I mean, I feel there's a lot of options, but I think taking advantage of that time was a true testament to what I learned when I first moved out here.
Yeah, no, I agree, and I was very. I mean, we're coming up. We're on the year anniversary of when COVID really, the quarantine really hit us, and I remember being very conscious. It was really all the preparation of studying certain aspects of Stoicism and studying Joseph Campbell's hero's journey and the hero with a thousand faces, and really spending time studying that prior to this, that I then that really helped ground me and start changing the language I was telling myself, saying, instead of being afraid and waiting for the next shoe to drop and not knowing what was going to happen with my employees or with our clients or whatever it's going to be, is that okay? Where is the opportunity in the chaos? Where do we find and look for the opportunity to develop and grow, where other individuals may not have that opportunity. We are going to have that opportunity. We just didn't know, and we had to go looking for it. We had to go and make ourselves available. So I remember those first 2 months, I was doing a lot of speaking engagements. I had a lot of events already on the calendar, kind of like you probably had events already on the calendar, and they just were dropping. I couldn't believe how fast they were dropping, and and not for sure in my mind, not knowing if or when those opportunities that passed, if they were going to come back again, right? And and then just there was a thing that unfolded, and all of a sudden I just dove into it, doing research and developing a new some new programming, and and that channeled my energy, and I became uh, definitely energized with the opportunity, and I had the time because I didn't have the distractions that I normally would have, and that worked out really well. And I think that was the biggest thing that when I've listened to people talk about it, they they didn't have their natural distractions, and so then they were left with their thoughts. And then some people found Netflix, and some people, found other things, gaming or whatever it is, to make the time go by. But man, a year is a long time to hold your breath. It's a long time to just get by, and
Yep.
the residual of that is not real good for some people. Brigham,
Right.
I want to jump into something. I know that you also, in the midst of the DJing, and I know that that must have been a real there must have been some real obstacles with the majority of your events getting canceled, and the bars not needing DJs to be there, and that aspect of it. You decided to venture out on take an entrepreneurial venture. So tell us a little bit about that.
So during, I believe it was dead middle of quarantine. It was after I felt like I had maybe exhausted a little bit of my want to continue to perfect my craft after I was kind of getting bored of doing the same thing every day. Um, to be completely honest, me and my roommate had a few drinks one night, and I told him, I'm like, it just out of a whim and out of my little bit of the state that I was in. I was like, hey, you know what? Like, I've been thinking about this for. I was like, dude, I always wanted to kind of maybe create my own beard oil, because at this point in time, I had already been making mine for a little bit now. Just made a recipe back when I was in college and just kind of always stuck to it. And I was like, yeah, I'm gonna do it. And then I started just doing some googling while we were sitting there and chatting. And I'm like, man, I think I could do this for pretty cheap. And my roommate looks at me and he goes, here's the deal, if you're going to do this, then tomorrow when I wake up, I'm going to make sure that you're actually going to do this. This isn't just going to be another idea, because this is a good idea. And I was like, damn, all right, you're right. Okay, fine. So sure enough, the next morning rolls around and we get up and he's like, hey man, you're still doing that though, right? Like, you're still going to chase that dream. I'm like, shoot, all right, sounds good. So I spent a week researching what it would look like to create a beard oil company. What it would look like to package, label, ship, create on mass quantities beard oil. Like I said, I'll do a quick backstory of it. I started making my own when I was in college, just because I found a cool recipe that I kind of perfected throughout the years. Started scenting my own, and that was just the cheapest and, to be honest, the most eco-friendly way for me to use beard oil on the regular. Because at this time, my beard started getting quite long, and so I needed something to continually to maintain it. So when I moved out to Montana, I kept growing my beard, and basically this idea came about. And so I found out a way, and I've learned so much in the process of building a business, as I do every day, as I do like maintaining a business. Because I mean, the DJing that I've done, essentially, I'm an independent contractor, so I've essentially built my own business, my own name. I do work for two different companies, in two different parts of the United States, but also in a single entity, as far as DJing goes. And that's been an interesting process in itself. And I've learned so much about business and entrepreneurship that way, that I wanted to see if I could really transfer what I've learned into more of a retail space or more of a
Mhm.
lifestyle space. So the biggest thing for me with this company is I wanted to create something that was really eco-friendly and sustainable, because I'm super passionate about the outdoors and the environment, and making sure that what I'm creating isn't multiplying the waste. Because that was my biggest pet peeve, is when I would get beard oils from different companies, I would just get shipped all these boxes and all these bubble wrap and all this stuff that was just plastic and stuff that would be on the earth forever. And I was like, well, I want to create a sustainable option that is also affordable. I don't want people, because I think that's a lot of people just associate sustainable and eco-friendly with cost, because a lot of times it does cost a little bit more to get stuff that isn't so cheap, like plastic and things like that. So really going through that process, and then once I figured out the logistics of it and what that would look like, the idea of just really building a brand was difficult but a lot of fun. It was some of the most fun I've ever had. And because I've really built Briggs Beard Co. around myself, around my personality, around who I am, and truly who I am to the world and who I want the world to see me as. And that is, an adventurous, outdoorsy person who is very conscious of their environmental impacts and their impact throughout, the community and the world and what that'll be. Because my goal for this company is really to, be in the community and be in places and provide different spaces for people to come. Once events are going to be back up and running, I really want to start to host and be a part of events, because I want it to be more than just a beard oil company. I don't want it to be just a service or just a product to people. I want people to think of the brand Briggs Beard Co. as what I truly am building it to be, and that is a community of people with a purpose and with a drive to use what they're buying and what they're doing to give back to the community, people in need, and give back to the environment. So I know that was kind of a long blabbery explanation about what
Sure, sure.
happened, but with that first stimulus check coming through and me realizing that I wasn't going to have a paycheck anytime soon, I was like, well, I should probably try to turn this money into more money. But that didn't work out because I'm just kidding. But so
Yeah.
it's just the idea of like that helped, but that wasn't the only reason. It was, yeah, money is great and that will come. But if I don't make a single dollar on beard oil for 5 years and I get to change people's lives or the way that they do something or the way that they use a product, that means more to me than the financial goals that I have set in place for this company.
Well, I have to tell you. So Diane, she got me for Christmas. She got your Christmas version of it. I had just started growing my beard out a little bit after Christmas, and so no, she must have got it. She actually got it for Caleb, but she forgot to give it to him, and then I ended up getting it. Went through that whole bottle, and then I ordered a couple bottles just recently for myself, and the I think it's called Mountain Man was the one that I got, and there's something about how like there's small little things every day that you look forward to, and
Hmm.
when I I only use it one time a day, and I when I'm getting ready in the morning, it's part of that morning ritual that I put it on, and because has the smell that I like, it's one of those things that it's kind of a grounding. I get used to the smell pretty quickly, so then you can't smell it after
Right.
that, but it is one of those things where I like the smell, and look forward to it, maybe a little bit of exaggerant, but it is something that it's like, like when you get done taking a shower and you feel good about it, even though
Right.
you may try to talk yourself out of doing it beforehand.
Uh-huh.
It's that feeling. So I appreciate the smell of it, because it's kind of a grounding effect. There's something about it that I definitely appreciate. So
That's awesome. And I think that's super cool. I mean, the stories like something as simple as that is that you're just looking forward to, putting the oil on every day. And then some of the stories from people I've never met in my entire life and may never meet in my entire life, just using the products and experiencing something that I've hand created. I mean, I fill all those bottles by hand. It's truly a rewarding thing, and it drives me to keep going to either create something new and something better, or just continue to put out awesome products for people that genuinely care. Because it's the cool thing is like, we plant a tree for every order placed on our website. So whether you like it or not, you're making a difference
yeah.
when you order something from us, which is super cool. And I think that's just a little add on to a lot of the other sustainable aspects of our products and our packaging, that I think it's just something that you can feel good about using and being a part of, that you'd not just feel like you're another number in a system when you buy something from us, which I think is, a big part of what we're trying to do.
Very cool. Now, are you selling more than beard oil right now? Are you selling other products, or just the beard oil right now?
So I have a beard oil and a body oil. So the beard oil is obviously super popular with people with beards, obviously, but it's also become pretty popular with people like long hair, like yourself, that like to just put it in the tips or use it as like a leave-in conditioner. And I had a lot of females tell me how much they like to use it, but they wanted something more catered towards them, a product that they could use. So long story short, I tweaked my recipe just a little bit and have since come out with a body oil for, I mean, it's for all skin types, but it is kind of catered more in the feminine realm, just with some of the scents we have, but it's great for all skin and hair or skin types. And that has been a cool thing because that's one of those things that I never really thought that I would ever do, but it was something that kind of pushed me in a
Mhm.
direction. Just people asking for something they could use that I have since created are super awesome. Like I don't use lotion anymore. I get to use my own body oil product, which to me is a little bit of a sense of pride because like, oh, I made this and this is super cool. And um, now to say it's not even just for females, I have a male customer who it's a crazy story that he told me about how he worked in construction for 25 years. He was in the military and had cracked feet his whole life, and there just could not get anything to work. He was using everything you could ever imagine to try and fix his cracked, dry feet. And he used my body oil one time because he won it off a giveaway. And he's literally like within 2 days, my feet are completely healed. And I've never seen this ever before in 30 years. And I was like, that is unbelievable. Something that I could have never really dreamed of
Sure.
happening, but just the evolution of what I've created has now, that has been the forthcoming thing from it, which is super cool to have that and get to experience through other people a transformation, which is really awesome.
Very cool. Very cool. So, Brigham, as we get ready to wrap up this piece of our segment, and I know, and just knowing you as I've gotten to know you over the years, your adventures are far from over. So, I would love to circle back around, sometime in the future, and have you back and share with what new things you've not only learned about yourself, but what new things that you're now experimenting with. But as we get ready to wrap up today, if there was anything that you would want to share with the audience before we leave, like one thing, and again, the audience is a wide variety of people that just listen, but if there was one thing that you would want to leave with them, what would you want to leave with them?
Oh, another tough question, but I would encourage something that is extremely underrated and not really talked about, and I think that's self-awareness. I think self-awareness in the mental and the physical and the spiritual is something that can help you benefit in many different areas of your life. And so let me expand on this just for a second, what I kind of mean like that. Just the understanding of your own personal emotions, the understanding of your own physical being, whether it be, physical pain or physical sensation, and then also spiritual, whatever you believe in, whatever you choose to be your spiritual realm that you live in. The self-awareness that you can have in each one of those categories will help you truly find drive, find passion, find consistency. I think one of the hardest things for people in our world right now, across all ages, to do is convey emotion effectively. I don't think people truly understand how to, first of all, realize their emotions. Second of all, swallow them, really understand what they are to themselves, and then third of all, expressing that to anybody else as a human. I think the world of technology has kind of hindered face-to-face interaction, and now that we've been forced to be away from each other, face-to-face interaction is going to be hard. And I think just being self-aware, like I said, of your emotion and understanding what you're feeling and then effectively communicating that to someone can lead you to great lengths of growth. And then even physically, if you have physical goals and just understanding where you're at and what your body needs on a daily basis, whether it's Brigg's beard oil or if it's drinking a smoothie, whatever you need daily. And then spiritually, taking time for yourself. I love to meditate. I love yoga. Yoga's done a lot for me, and it's really kind of grounded me. No pun intended. But I think there, in each aspect of this life, if people can really focus on themselves, so that they can help others. Because, like you mentioned in the very beginning, it's all about the journey. It's all about getting yourself to a point to where you feel like you can potentially give back to others. In my personal opinion, I think it's very important to get to a mental and emotional space to where people can come to me and have difficult conversations and or come to me and just express their emotions. I took a lot of classes in college on conflict resolution and just interpersonal communication, and it's something I'm really passionate about because I think the personal interaction that we have with everybody every day can be the difference in a good day or a bad day, or the first day or a last day. And I think that if we all lived in a way that we thought that, that we all knew that everything and every interaction that we had with everybody on this planet had an outcome, had some sort of um, there was going to be something that came from that interaction, whether it be positive or negative. I think once you realize, okay, if I act this way towards this person, it could make a difference. But then again, I think the self-awareness and where you're at. So say you go to a grocery store and you're angry and you have an angry encounter with the clerk at the grocery store, and then that clerk goes home and tells their spouse about how their day was shitty because they had someone come in and treat them terribly. I think once you can realize the trickle effect of your actions
Mhm.
and the way that you interact with humans, I think we could all make this world a better place if we just, I guess, thought to ourselves. Think to yourself. Understand where you're coming from and why you're coming from that way. And just I encourage people all the time that when they experience a heavy emotion or something that is difficult or something that they don't know what to do about, they take a deep breath and they understand that, or they talk to themselves, say, what just happened to make me feel this way? Why am I feeling this way? And what do I want to do about it? Those three questions um, can really help you grow in a way, with people and by yourself, that can hopefully and eventually put you in a great place to succeed mentally, physically, and spiritually.
Yeah. Well, Brigham, on multiple levels, because of the opportunity of what I get to do for a living, with counseling and speaking, I agree with you that self-awareness, is a huge first step. And then then, um, that development aspect of being able to develop yourself, in all three of those areas, spiritually, emotionally, as well as physically, and what you learn along the way about yourself is all that preparation. You never know when when you may think you're doing it for the 6 a.m. workouts for football, and it may very much be something that then helps you when you're alone, and you are trying to utilize your time for other particular tasks. And so I think that throughout your story, and probably will continue, that obstacles may also be opportunities. It doesn't mean it's going to be easy, but at least there is going to be purpose within that pain. So Brigham, I appreciate you being on the show. I appreciate what you are doing, for our community and for a bigger, for a bigger whole, either from a standpoint of making a bride and a groom's day extra special. That was where the last time we saw each other in person. I know you definitely did that for Hayden and James, and the families that were there, and as well as what you're doing with your product with Brigg's, Beard Co. So you continue the great work of continue to being aware and growing, and I'll be excited to hear what the new thing you learn about yourself goes. So.
Well, thank you very much. It was a pleasure to be here, and I'm glad that we got to have this chat. And I'm already looking forward to the next one. It's been great.
Sounds good. Well, as you guys were listening to Brigham share about his story, and as you hear as he went through different adventures and what appeared to be a setback, doesn't minimize the pain or the difficulty at that time period, but there's choices that we can make in that, in those setbacks, and how, he found some things that he wouldn't have found if he wouldn't have persevered, or if he would have taken, a more familiar path. So I would invite you into doing the same thing, that when you find obstacles, look for those opportunities and continue that, your own self-awareness in the areas of your physical realm, your mental realm, emotional and spiritual. Look forward to being with you again next week, and we'll be talking to you soon.